Courtney, Tom Mcgrath is an Edmonton-based elite marathoner. Tom, welcome to the program. You're
Thanks.
just back in the city after a trip to the great city of Boston, Massachusetts, for what I must imagine was part of an ongoing dream coming true for you.
Yeah, for sure. Boston is a pretty special experience. I mean, it's kind of that marathon that everyone can try and work to qualify for. Everybody who goes to Boston has to qualify to get in. It's the only marathon like that in the world outside of the Olympics, but most of us know we're not going to get that far with our running. So it's a goal for sure that, you know, people think of once they do a first marathon, and if it goes quite well, that's one of the next steps, you know, in the process. So it's one of the most special running events on the face of the planet, for sure.
And people talk about it being one of the most special sporting events, which I think is what makes Monday's bombing so disturbing for so many. We understand, of course, even aside, if we can separate ourselves from a second, from the personal tragedies of those directly affected, the victims of this bombing, so many thousands of others affected, I'm sure, emotionally and personally because of the magnitude of the experience they expected to have in Boston. Let's take you back to about 2.5 hours into the race. You're set to cross the finish line. In the top 100 of just about 25,000 runners. Take us through your finishing moments and what the mood was there at the finish line in Boston.
There's literally nothing like it in the world. I mean, finishing a marathon is pretty incredible in itself. And I mean, that was marathon number 13 for me. So I've done it a couple of times, but you know, I will never forget, and I can still remember very clearly the finishing moments of every marathon that I've done up till now. But Boston is pretty special because you're running down Boylston Street. The crowds are huge. People are screaming, waving. There's people hanging out of windows, looking out of the hotels. The grandstand is just packed. And I mean, the elite athletes, the world-class guys have finished 20 minutes ago, but everybody is still there watching and screaming and supporting, and they're doing it for hours and hours. And you make a left-hand turn onto Boylston Street, and you run down that street for maybe 800 meters or so, and the whole way is just a scream tunnel. It's pretty incredible. People just cheering and supporting the runners, and they do that for the elite athletes all the way up until the charity runners who are running it in 4 or 5 hours.
Now, of course, an hour 39 after you would cross that finish line, Boylston Street would become the site of what is being described as an act of terror. Can you take us from the euphoria of your experience in finishing this race, feeling the love and the support of Bostonians and those from around the world, to what happened just 10 blocks away from where you were sitting having lunch, recovering from this race?
It's tough, right? Like, I mean, running a marathon is a very emotional day anyway. You know, you get up really early, you're nervous, you're anxious, you're excited for the race, and you run the race, and it's one of the greatest experiences of your life, and you finish, and you're happy, and you're celebrating with your friends, and you're out for drinks and lunch afterwards, and then you get the news, and it was just crushing to all of us. We couldn't believe that something like that had happened.
Can you describe the mood in the city and just the moments following these explosions that you were so close to?
It was almost, I mean, the moments right after, word didn't get out that quickly. Like, I mean, I was 10 blocks away from the finish line, and I didn't hear about the explosion from anyone in town. I heard of the explosion was from people in Edmonton checking to see if I was okay, and I didn't even know what they were talking about, right? But then it was like a huge black cloud just covered the whole city. You know, it's one of the brightest days in Boston of the whole year. People across the town, city look forward to it. But it's really tough for, all of a sudden, it's just like really, really somber across the whole city instantly.
And of course, the eyes of the entire world on one of America's greatest cities, at one of its greatest cultural events, greatest sporting events. Tom, the question that everybody is asking now to those first-timers that were there, as well as the competitive marathoners like yourself, does an event like this, an occurrence like this, impact you in any way when it comes to making plans moving forward to attend similar events?
To be honest, no, it doesn't. You can't live your life in fear of things like this. I mean, it's really sad that we live in a world where things like this happen, but you got to live your life, and, you know, I'm planning on going back to the Boston Marathon next year.
There we have it. Tom Mcgrath, thank you for joining us today. You just arrived here in Edmonton a few short hours ago wearing this Adidas jacket and, of course, with this medal around your neck, testifying to the incredible experience you had. Something tells me that this medal might mean a little bit more to those that completed the Boston Marathon this year.
It does, for sure.
Tom Mcgrath is a runner sponsored by the Running Room. Tonight, Runners in Edmonton will gather there at 6 p.m. to remember the victims of the Boston bombings. All of the information on our website under the Inside BT link at 6:28. We're right back with news, traffic, and weather after this.